Hi, I'm Dr. Scott Conkright. What if your body is holding memories your mind can't access? We explore how early relationships shape your nervous system and how healing it begins through relationship, not just insight. Tune in now. Your body has something to say. There is a quiet threshold we cross, often without noticing it, where our feelings begin to look backwards. Not just in the sense of memory, but in the way we start to gather who we are through patterns of experience. This is the beginning of coherence, not the kind born from consistency, but from integration. Affect, once impulsive, emotion, once flooding, now they begin to orbit around each other and around meaning. In adolescence, our stories began to take shape in fragments, a betrayal here, a moment of pride there, a diary entry that tried to name a truth, a conversation that stuck longer than it should have. The threads began. But in adulthood, something changes. We begin to weave. This weaving is not automatic, it is an achievement. Because coherence, true coherence, is not a clean retelling of facts, it is the ability to feel across time, to make meaning of past affects, and to sense the relevance now. It is saying, that was then, but it still lives in me, and then choosing what to do with it. From an affect relational theory lens, adulthood is where narration and affective integration begins to stabilize. The system has matured, not in the sense of emotional control, but in the sense of emotional reflection. The body still remembers. The nervous system still registers, but now the cortex has more to say. The prefrontal cortex is fully online, and it can collaborate with the amygdala instead of being overruled by it. Affect can be noticed without being obeyed. It can be paused, graded, called into question. This doesn't mean the feelings are weaker. Often they are stronger, but more complex. Joy carries with it a tenderness. Anger may carry sorrow underneath. Longing may carry a trail of memories that don't surface but still shape the tone of the moment. We're no longer just reacting, we are recognizing. Recognition is different from recall. To recall is to access a file, to recognize is to refeel with insight. It's what happens when a smell brings back a childhood kitchen or a song tightens the throat for reasons you can't quite explain. The feeling rises with context, and with it, the possibility of coherence. This is why so many adults began asking not just what happened to me, but why did that matter? Or what does that say about who I've become? The emotional questions shift from reaction to reflection. We begin to trace patterns across time and notice how we've shaped the self. This is also the age when unfelt feelings demand attention. The sadness that was buried, the rage that was rationalized, the joy that was never allowed. They return not as intrusions, but as invitations. Invitations to make room. Because coherence doesn't mean resolution, it means an attempt at wholeness. It means holding contradictions, such as loving someone who hurt you, grieving a life that also brought joy, and forgiving a version of yourself that didn't know better at all. It means feeling all of it at once and not falling apart. This is emotional authorship. It's not flashy, it's not constant, but when it arrives, it's unmistakable. The moment you say, I know this feeling. I've met it before, and I can be with it now without becoming it. And perhaps most powerfully, I can tell the story differently now. That's the essence of late lessons. Not perfection, not closure, but ownership. The ability to shape how feelings live inside you and how they move forward in your life. Sometimes feeling is too much, too fast, too soon, or too long. When experience overwhelms the body's ability to integrate it, it leaves a lasting impression that doesn't subside. The nervous system registers an event but cannot narrate it. The result is trauma. Trauma isn't necessarily the event itself, it's what happens when affect can't complete the arc, when startle has no recovery, when fear has no witness, when pain has no name. It lives in the space between what was felt and what could not be made sense of. In those moments, the body does what it's built to do. It takes over. Fast reflexes, dissociation, shutdown, freeze. The prefrontal cortex goes offline. The affective system acts without pause, without memory, without narrative. This is survival. But survival has a cost. The feeling mind becomes fractured. In trauma, the normal integration of affect, memory, and meaning is interrupted. The raw intensity of experience is seared into implicit memory, while explicit memory often fails to form. The result? A person who feels too much but can't tell you why, or a person who recalls everything in detail but feels nothing at all. But trauma hijacks more than just affect. It hijacks the embodied expression of affect. Our dynamic vitality affects become frozen into protective but limiting patterns. The body that once leaned forward in curiosity now recoils at the first sign of intensity. The voice that once lifted with joy now stays carefully flat. The shoulders that once lifted in pride now curl inward at the first hint of visibility. The breath that once deepened with excitement now stays shallow and guarded. These aren't personality traits per se, they are survival choreographies, DVAs that protected us when protection was needed, but now limit the full expression of who we are becoming. They are the consequences of a system that has been overwhelmed. In art, we understand trauma not simply as damage, but as a disruption of the body's storytelling capacity. The body remembers too vividly. The mind cannot assemble the pieces. Affect, now disconnected from its context, appears in unexpected places. You overreact to a sound, you dissociate in a crowd, you cry in moments of success, you feel shame when you've done nothing wrong. And your DVAs become stuck in protective mode. You might find yourself automatically shrinking in groups, even safe ones. Your voice might stay flat when you want to express joy. Your body might brace against touch, even loving touch. Your gaze might dart away from direct eye contact, even with people you trust. The story doesn't fit the feeling. The embodied presence doesn't match the actual situation. Or worse, there is no story at all. Just a body that moves through the world in patterns learned when the world was dangerous. This is why a profound confusion of identity often follows trauma. Who am I if I can't trust what I feel? If I can't explain what I remember? If my reactions betray me? if my body moves in ways that no longer serve me, the feeling mind, once a compass, now becomes a terrain of landmines. The embodied self, once a source of authentic expression, becomes a collection of protective habits that feel foreign and alien. To live with trauma is to live with affect that no longer belongs to the present, and DVAs that were choreographed for a past that is now over. But healing is not erasure, it's reconnection. And reconnection is not cognitive, it's not insight, though that may happen. It's relational. The traumatized system cannot be talked into calm. It must be met, felt, and seen, not just with words, but with presence, patience, and bodies that do not flinch, eyes that don't look away, with rhythm, breath, pacing, and repair. Because what trauma breaks is not just affect regulation, but trust and co regulation. It disrupts not only internal awareness, but also faith in embodied connection. This is why healing must move through the same path that it was broken, through affect, through the body, in relationship, towards coherence. The goal isn't to eliminate the feelings or force new movements, it's to give them somewhere to land, to make them narratable, to return the body to time and to allow choice. Healing begins when someone can sense the old protective patterns rising and they choose something different, not through force, but through body awareness, through recognizing this collapse in my chest. I know what it's trying to protect, but I'm safe enough now to try staying upright. Or this urge to look away, I understand why my eyes learn to hide, but this person is trustworthy enough for me to practice staying present. That's the beginning of narrative repair and embodied repair. It starts when the body says, "This happened." And someone says back, "I believe you." And then, with great care, feeling begins to take on meaning, not just to wound, but to witness, not just to protect, but to connect. The DVA that once meant hide can slowly become choose when to be visible. The movement that once meant brace can gradually become sense what's actually happening now. The voice that once meant stay safe through silence can learn to whisper, then speak, then maybe even sing. Trauma hijacks affect and freezes embodied expression. But affect, when held with compassion, can find its way back to flow. And the body, when met with patience, can remember how to move with choice rather than just protection. If something stirred in you today, some memory, some feeling, some new way of seeing yourself, trust that. In the next episodes, we'll dive deeper into how affect becomes identity, how relationships shape our nervous systems, and how healing begins with awareness. So be sure to subscribe and follow along. And if you're curious where you are on your own growth journey, take the free self-discovery snapshot at scottconkright.com. You can also join our newsletter for weekly insights and learn about upcoming therapy groups, meetups, and live workshops. Until next time, be kind to the part of you that felt everything first.